Welcome to Season 5 of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast with Adina, Brian, Cris, and Steve, the biggest sci-fi podcast in the galaxy. The adventure is just beginning here at the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, and we invite you to come aboard the Starship Tangent. We know you'll enjoy the conversation, the laughter, the banter back and forth, and most of all, friends who love hanging out to talk about all things science fiction. Set your phasers to fun. Here we go. It is my pleasure to welcome you to another fun episode of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. My name's Brian Donahue, and I'll be playing the role of moderator for today's episode. So I expect everyone to be on their best behavior and to follow the rules as we talk about our wish list. Yeah, right. For Star Trek episodes we wish they had done sequels to, characters we would like to have seen brought back again, or perhaps more often, storylines we would have liked to have seen fleshed out a bit more. You guys get the picture. But before we dive into that mumbo jumbo, I'd love to invite you to like, share, maybe subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Write us a kind and maybe even spectacular review. It helps us get the podcast in front of more fans who never knew they needed the four of us in their lives at least once a week. Also, make sure to visit the fantabulous podcast network of which we're a proud part of, Trek Geeks, at trekgeeks.com. We sure appreciate those guys. Salute to Dan and Bill. We appreciate you, kind sirs. And don't forget to check out all the great podcasts available on the network. They have something for everyone. And now it's my pleasure to introduce yet again my co-hosts, but they're much more than that. They're my good friends, my comrades, my compadres, my fellow sci-fi geeks, members of the band. You get the idea. Let me breathe for a minute, guys. Everybody say hello to our chief engineer, Adina Mignona.
Hello.
Hey. And how about our real-life moderator and counselor, Christian Fox? Hey,
Hello.
buddy. Hello, and our resident retired and all-around nice guy, but he's no red shirt, Stephen Merkin. How you doing?
Don't beat me down, please. I beg of you.
We promise, unless we absolutely have to, pal.
Okay.
And I'm Brian Donahue. I guess I'm the captain for this particular voyage. Guys, let's see what's out there in the vast universe that is Star Trek. But before we do that, let's just go around the ring real quick here. How you guys doing? Anything cool, spectacular, awesome going on in your lives?
Lunar Logic. People need to look for my book, Lunar Logic. That's going to be out real soon.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Cris?
Cool. It's been good and bad. Good. I saw an article posted from one of the websites we all used to work for about my podcast, and that was great.
Aww.
But not bad news. It's just been weird. My sleep has been kind of messed up lately because of Brazil. Like, I've not been able to stop thinking about that
The
movie.
movie Brazil, not the country Brazil.
Not the country.
Yes.
I love the country. But like the movie, I don't know. It's just like I can't put my finger on like what I find so unnerving about it.
It did its job.
Yes.
It made you really think.
Yes.
Yes.
You need to go watch Trolls or Minions movie or something just silly and
The
goofy
Lego
and
movie.
happy and joyful.
I've been
Lego
watching.
movie.
I've been trying to do all the
Everything is
usual
awesome.
things.
I don't
Yeah,
like the Lego movie at all.
It's
Oh my
good.
God,
Yes.
I've seen it. I've seen it another dozen times in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, good night.
So I have to like
Everything
listen
is
to stuff at night.
awesome.
I'd rather watch Starship Troopers again. But anyway.
Oh,
my
please.
God.
Stop
Sorry
it.
you're not sleeping well,
Stop
Cris.
it. Stop.
I'm hoping it'll pass. I mean, the same thing happened with Apocalypse Now when I saw that a few years ago, and then there
Oh,
was something
wow.
else recently that kind of was like messing up my sleep. But then I get, you get through it. Just takes a couple of weeks. A lot of background Trek at night. That always helps. But it's annoying.
Yes. Well, we hope you get a lot of sleep.
I
Steve.
was driving home last week from work, and so since I just said, I'm going to listen to the soundtrack from Subspace Rhapsody one more time, and it still brings sheer joy to me. Absolutely. It is just without even watching it, just listening to the music and the lyrics and how it's so joyful. It really is. I mean, it's a private conversation. It's a private conversation. This is
Yeah.
in front of my, it's just great. It really is. And for anyone
so well
who
done.
just
you mean
listen
Everything
to
is
the Strange
Yeah.
New Worlds?
Yeah,
sound.
Strange New
Yes.
Worlds. That's
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
what movie is he talking about? Subspace. I've
Yeah,
just got
Star
it.
Trek.
All right, I'm on board
Yeah.
with you now. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I mean, you can just listen to it on. There's a YouTube or
Yep,
Spotify,
yep.
but it's so joyful. It's so
Awesome.
staid. It's so awesome. It
It's
really is.
so
And
awesome.
I
It's like
Everything is
everything about that movie is
awesome.
awesome. I mean, TV show.
We're gonna.
You know what I mean?
I tell you what, for idea for a Star Trek episode, I know we talked about music has been in Star Trek plenty of times. There's plenty of singing and even dancing in Star Trek. That could have bombed severely. It could have ruined Strange New Worlds for a lot of people. It is, I think, maybe one of the top 2 popular episodes of both seasons. So
Yeah, I think so.
here we are talking about it again.
Well, it's just it is super. It's just so joyful, and you're right. They took a real chance, but they wrote great lyrics. They had great music, and it just worked, and it really did. And I mean, come on, Korean Klingons, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Okay.
Yes. So we have done a lot on this episode already. Adina has sung "Everything Is Possible" or whatever.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
You know, now for like 10
Everything
times.
is cool when you're part of a team.
All right,
We're a
somebody
team.
mute
Just
her
like us.
microphone while I ask this first question.
Please do. Oh, wait a minute. I have one thing to say before we
ahead.
begin on this. Before we
Go
begin,
ahead,
I have one
go
thing
ahead.
to say.
Yes, sir.
Blasphemy. Trek is perfect. Can we go home now?
Yep, solved. All right,
Okay.
that's it, everybody. See you next time. Big Sci-Fi Podcast.
But that's
All right,
Trek might be perfect, but that doesn't mean there can't be more. And what we're doing tonight is we're going to talk about more.
Yes.
Okay,
More
I'll go with that.
perfection.
Then
Okay.
let's. I
And I
rescind
have
what I just
lost
said. Let's
all
go.
control of this podcast already. So I'm going to dive right in here. The first question I think we need to ask, guys, we need to get this out of the way so our listeners can understand where we're coming from, right? We got to build a foundation in case listeners haven't watched our top 10 episodes or movies of Trek or whatever, you know. What are your top 2 series and top 2 films? Just give us an idea of your core fandom. And remember, we're not going into great monologues at this part of this. We're just this is just so people get an idea. And okay. And
So state without qualification.
Adina, I'm asking for 2 only of each. Okay. And so what we're gonna do, I'm actually gonna start with Cris.
Okay.
Because then it'll give Adina some time to wound down from her 4 or 5 she's actually chosen. Okay, go ahead, Cris.
Okay, it's for TV shows, it's pretty easy. TNG and DS9. TNG I grew up with, I love it, and DS9 is just so fleshed out, really well done. And then for movies, First Contact is up there. It's probably my number 2. Love First Contact, can't stop watching it. And then of course Voyage Home. I feel like it just hits all the boxes for me. So those 2 are my top.
Good choices, my friend. Steve, how about you, sir?
Well, without a doubt, as you can tell by the picture you have of me always wearing my NX01 hat, it is Enterprise and TOS, only because if we're not TOS, there would be nothing. 0.
Right.
And for movies, without a doubt, First Contact is my favorite. And number 2 is Wrath of Khan. There you go.
My brother, Adina. I'm going to go last.
So I'm going to compromise and actually just give you the top 1 of each, because top 1 is easy. It's the second one that I'm like struggling between like 5,000 choices.
I can live with that.
Series, Next Generation.
All right.
Okay.
And movie, The Voyage Home. It's like, then you ask me for a second, what's my second favorite? That's when I have to like,
gotcha.
I've got like 5.
I bet there's a lot of us that way too, to a degree, you know, like we could have we could have 2 or 3 as our second, maybe, you know,
like I want to say my second series is Lower Decks, but then I want to say Picard, but then I want to say TOS for the same reason Steve did. And then I'm stuck and I'm cycling. I'm swirling.
Okay. You were going to say something, Cris. Go ahead.
Oh, just like when it comes to the real thing for me, and this is not great, is that when it comes to all of the movies, like I'd say probably all of the everything from motion picture all the way up until maybe Into Darkness, minus Nemesis, minus Beyond, they're my top movies of all time. Like which I know you're not supposed to say that, but so it is difficult because I alternate between like what are my 3 and 4. I can never decide. Depends on what mood I'm in.
Yeah. All right. So
wait a minute. Yeah, Brian. Thank you.
My favorite series is, and I went back and forth on that. I wrestled with this a lot, but I'm gonna say my top series is Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
And my second favorite is The Next Gen. That's the one I grew up in. Now, I grew up watching the original two, of course, in probably the 10th or 15th rerun, if not more. But Deep Space Nine, I think, is still to this day the most well-rounded, most well-developed of all the Star Trek series. Next Gen is my sentimental favorite. And I think it's our classic, and then for films, I gotta put Star Trek First Contact up there as number one, and I'm the Wrath of Khan number two up there. So now that everybody knows our foundation, or some of the things that we tend to cling to or look at the most, which series do you feel has left more open-ended possibilities for more than the rest of the series?
Adina's motor's running. This one she's ready to go. This one she's like, I know the answer to this question.
Well, no, because I think there is actually a real answer to this, not like more than just an opinion answer.
Okay.
It's because if you look at Lower Decks and what Lower Decks is doing, so no, the answer is Next Generation. And we know it's Next Generation because of all the things that Lower Decks is bringing in, like all these one episode things. The Packlids, the Binars, all these things that they're doing that came from the Next Generation, you're seeing and they're able to do in Lower Decks. And that's why the right answer
like I don't want to call them the drug planet, but the drug people who were like fighting over that drug, and then they just became like fitness enthusiasts. Do you remember? Like, so I mean, that's a good like callback.
Was that a Lower Decks callback?
Yeah, Symbiosis and TNG, when like there's the two planets.
Yeah, I remember the TNG. I'm not remembering the callback.
In Lower Decks, they go back to that planet, and then they've all become like fitness, wellness enthusiasts because they're like, we're off the drugs, but now we just got to work out all the time.
Yes, yeah,
and it's like
that's
funny.
Exactly it.
They
That's
addressed
why Next Generation.
Just like, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to cut you off, and then, yep, we're done. So that's perfect. And I didn't know the Binar were back. I have to catch up. I'm like
There's a recent episode with the sorry spoiler alert, but the coolest thing is we saw I watched that with Frank, and it made us go back and watch the original episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
With the Binars.
Which in my opinion, in Next Gen, that episode was the first time I went, this thing's got a spark. I don't think it's one of the greatest episodes. I think I'm in the middle of watching Center Seat on Prime. With fantastic
which is awesome.
Documentary of all of Trek. And I'm in Next Gen right now. Actually, just finished going into Deep Space Nine now. But they talk about the episode Yesterday's Enterprise is the first really great Next Generation episode where that turned the tide for that series. And everyone said, well, wait, we need to pay attention to this now. But I think that episode with the Binars is like 11001101, had some stuff in it that I remember watching it originally going, oh, wow, okay, this show could be really good.
Yeah, I love that episode. I go back to that one a lot.
All right. So the Next Generation, clear.
Clear.
I mean,
clear
without hesitation.
On Adina's point.
Steve, what about...
For me?
Yeah, go ahead, you.
Without question. Enterprise. Enterprise was cut short by 4 seasons. We were given a final episode, which was okay. And you see, you made that noise. You made the noise. But there is it's
a holodeck
example. Oh no, this is item number 1. I'm holding up the book, The Good That Men Do.
Yes,
where we redo the final episode. It brings in DS9 characters who open up the book.
It does.
Yes. Nog,
I never heard you say that.
Nog and Sisko's son, as Jake. Older gentlemen, find this detailed history that's been kept secret by Starfleet. What really happened.
Who wrote that, Steve? Do you mind if I ask?
Book was written
we might as well plug it all the way.
Yeah, no. The book was written by Andy Mangels and Michael A. Martin.
Okay.
And Martin went on to write additional books, Kobayashi Maru, which is his next book in line, and the Romulan War books.
Based on in the Enterprise timeline.
Is chronological. I mean, it's chronological. You look in the chapter, it is open Sunday, February 15th, 2155, Deep Space. The book is in chronological order. All the books are in chronological order. And so if there was a fifth, a sixth, a seventh season, and these authors had a chance to do something about it, we wouldn't have seen the end of the death of Trip. We would have seen what became of him.
Right.
And they recreate many of the scenes from the final episode, but update it to what allows the story to continue on. So this is the continuation that was missing. I will say this about also TOS, cut short, 3 seasons only, but we were given 6 movies. That's the equivalent of 12 episodes if you think of it that way. And if you, again, say that TNG was cut, needed more episodes. Well, luckily, how many movies did we have?
4.
4 movies. How many? Then you had Picard, which is essentially another, 30 episodes? So we have gotten that from these other series, thank goodness. We've had the continue watch, and of course all the books and everything go with it. But I think Enterprise is the one that got shortchanged unfairly.
I would love that. I mostly agree, but I feel like I've got to say something different to keep the conversation going.
Please do.
But I'd say Voyager, even though like it was like the goal was to get home when they get home, but it's just like, okay, there's all these things they talk about getting back to Earth. And then they arrive at Earth and they're like, all right, we're done. And I just felt like there's so many different storylines we could see. Okay, how do they integrate back into Earth? Like, what's that first night like? Are they as happy? Because in reading some of the not the tie-in fiction, but like I forgot what that's called when they continue the story. A lot of that fiction, it's like you get the sense that even though people are mostly happy to be back, they're not quite satisfied. Like they're not missing Voyager, but they're not entirely happy with where they are. Also, one of the biggest things that's so frustrating is that Tom Paris specifically has a whole storyline with his dad. His dad, he doesn't have a good relationship with him. And he's become the man that you presume that his dad would like. And guess who's on screen? His dad's on screen talking to all of them. And you know who don't have a conversation? It's Tom and his dad. So I feel like Voyager should get like the just to find out what happened afterwards, even though I think Steve was right. The Enterprise, like if they could give us more Enterprise, I'd be down. I also just want to know, like, what was the speech? What did Archer say?
Yeah.
Did he in fact say, as I like to in my headcanon, have some variation of to boldly go? Because that's what you imagine, like if it's supposed to be so iconic that everybody remembers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say probably for me, Voyager.
Okay.
Interesting. Is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
Yay, it's my turn. You want to know something? I'm going to go weird here.
Okay, do it.
Because you guys have brought up some interesting points. But I feel like there are, even though Deep Space Nine is very much, I think, the most well-rounded character loops and everything, there's still some things there I wish they would have done more with. But that's not my answer. My answer is, I think it's next gen too. Even with Picard, even with, and Chris, you make a really good point about Voyager. Enterprise, of course, that was just heartbreaking when it only lasted. It was like, oh my gosh, is this the end of Star Trek?
But wait, the thing about Enterprise is there's, I think, a question that Steve answered that's slightly different from the one you asked. Steve, you were making the point that Enterprise basically just got cut short and it deserved better and everything. And that is not quite the same. And I agree with that, but that's not necessarily the same as more open-ended possibilities. Those are two different, I feel like those are two different nuances.
I think
they're similar.
I think to a degree, yeah. I think also the Next Gen, because they were such one-off stories with an occasional coming back to things like the Borg, you know, they messed around with the Romulans early on in the series, but didn't really do a whole lot like in seasons 6 and 7, besides maybe 1 or 2, you know. So, and that was something that actually I wish they would have done more of. I hated how they did the Romulans in Nemesis. That was so unsatisfying for me. I felt like Next Gen had handled the Romulans pretty coolly. Well, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes, of course.
Cris feels me. But anyways, so for me, it's Next Gen. I think there's just so many one-off stories. And it's gonna attribute to some of my answers for some of these later questions too later on. And I'm interested if you guys have some of the same.
I see. This is where, like, because I get that Steve was answering it from a different way, that it wasn't like Enterprise didn't necessarily end the best, but I feel like there's like a huge gap. Like, I think, okay, Steve, help me out. When does the series finale take place? Is it like 10 years after?
It's 10 years. Yes.
So there's like a 10-year gap of all these things that we know could have happened, like the refit, getting the deflector dish would have been cool. And then being able to see things like the Romulan War and all these famous things that we know happened. Whereas TNG, I feel like Lower Decks, I just want more Trek is what it gets down to.
Amen.
But I see that Enterprise just having a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, and I think for what, and I think we all like Enterprise, and it's Steve's favorite, but I think that for what it had, it did really well with that stuff compared to the other Trek that had been done up until that point, with maybe the exception of Deep Space Nine. And so hats off to the producers of Enterprise. We all wish we could have got more, but let's dive into more of the specifics here, guys. Okay. Is there a character, perhaps 2 or 3, that you would have loved to have seen the creators give us more background on, more screen time? I'm talking backstory and history, not continuing story from what we already know. Okay. And,
are you talking about main characters or side characters or irrelevant? Anything?
This is open to side characters, people that made 1 appearance, 2 appearances, whatever. So it doesn't have to be just main characters. But if it's a main character, that's cool too.
Okay.
So let's let Steve go first.
Okay. To me, because I watched it from the beginning, the very first episode of Star Trek, and you just got thrown into the characters. And because it was the first Star Trek series, they were building story as they went along, but they had to choose between backstory of characters or character or event or story-driven stories, where they really wanted to get into political, emotional, religious, economic, whatever, and tell them in a way that the American public could enjoy them. So they never really, and there's, they argue, where was Kirk born? But we never really get a chance to learn everything about them. And that was, again, because it was when the show came out. But the one character I would love to see so much more about, and his entire life arc, is our good friend Khan. I think you could do an entire series about Khan's life, from the way it was first episode in Tomorrow's Tomorrow in Strange New Worlds, where you meet Khan as a little boy, and we find out what happened through his life that turned him into the person he was. And then, what happened during the genetics war and all like that. So to me, that's one character I've always wanted more information on, and have it in a TV or movie or whatever.
Right. And I know we've talked about it before. There is I think a 2-book arc called The Rise and Fall of Khan Noonien Singh by Greg Cox. And it's on audiobook. You can listen to it on YouTube, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. Renee Aubergenois reads one part of it. Another actor
that's cool.
reads, I think, either the first or second part. And so they kind of split it. But really fascinating and interesting take on, and it's his childhood, and even brings in Gary Seven.
Nice.
And all that. So that's worth a look at.
I'm going to have to put that in so I can listen to it in my drives to work.
There you go. It's fantastic. It's pretty great. It might satisfy some of that, but it would still be cool.
It would still be good to see it on the big screen or on the small TV or whatever, I would like to
I know
that.
There was was it 4 or 5 years ago now that there was all these rumors that Nicholas Meyer was going to bring back do a Khan series, and he seems to be someone that would be down to do more Khan. I'd love that. It'd just be confusing now only because I feel like we have 3 different Khans, and even though we have Khan and tomorrow, I feel like that Khan's not the same Khan we get from original series, which is different from the Into Darkness Khan. So I think they'd have to play around with that, but I think that'd be cool.
The only thing I think they would have to do is the point of view character would have to be someone other than Khan himself, because Khan is a really bad guy, Hitler level bad. So he's not a sympathetic character, nor should he be. So that story has to be told through someone who we can sympathize and actually root for and like.
Right.
See, that's not a good guy.
That's what Greg Cox did in his books.
Okay.
It's done through the eyes of Charlie Seven. Who was his sidekick? Do you remember? There's another character, a girl, that can kind of morph into different. Anyways, it's really told through they're trying to contain history, and so they have to do that around Khan, and so that's it makes it they become a part of that story, and just like you said, Adina, it's spot on.
So I was going to say, because not to get into a whole other franchise, but that was my issue with the Joker movie as well. It was really well done. I'm like, this is harder to watch because there's no good guy. There's no one Batman saying, hey, we got to stop him. So I think that would have to be the case.
You can tell the story, but you need something that we can root for, and you're not rooting for Khan. We shouldn't.
No, you're not rooting for Khan.
No.
Yeah.
Have we answered this to the? I don't know. Have we asked everybody?
I'm satisfied. No, I'm fine. I'm going to want to again watch those YouTube. Yeah,
Adina, then.
Gosh, there's. So, when you started off by saying in TOS, and I agree. And of course, because of the time and the way that was presented, backstory of the characters wasn't that important. But I feel like we are getting it in Strange New Worlds for most of the characters, which I like. I like seeing young Uhura. I like seeing young, spoiler alert, Montgomery Scott, and seeing these people as they came up, when where they were new people, so we're getting that. So I'm kind of torn. I always felt that we never got enough backstory on Dr. Crusher's character. If all the rest of the Next Generation cast, we at least meet their immediate family and their parents or brother or sister or something. And
the
yes,
ghost
she has her
wasn't enough
son. No. But that was the one episode where they mentioned that she was kind of raised by her grandmother.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else about her backstory there. So I've always felt that. And so similarly, Bones, which is, McCoy is my favorite character in TOS. And we have no backstory in him either.
Yeah.
No,
I think
go ahead, Cris.
To Crusher, the only other relative we get other than her grandmother is Aunt Adele, and that's only mentioned when she's making milk.
No. That was Picard's Aunt Adele.
Oh,
right?
You're right.
Yeah. So, we don't even have that.
Old school Star Trek novel time here. Adina, read the book, Old School Next Gen book Reunion. That's got a lot of Crusher backstory in it. And then also for Bones, Shadows on the Sun by Michael Jan Friedman, who's going to be at Trek Long Island with us. One of my favorite books of all time. It is all about Bones's marriage, the failure of that marriage,
Okay.
his time in med school, and the main planet they're on that they talk about, and then how he runs into his ex-wife again in the future, and they kind of have a twist. And
So I'm
it's a
almost scared to,
fascinating read.
as much as I say I want it, I don't know if I necessarily do.
Shadows on the Sun, you do.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
see,
telling
this
you,
is
it's
hard.
one of the most satisfying, intriguing reads for Trek
Okay,
I've
fair.
ever read. It's just very well done, and I don't think anything interferes with it in Trek past that was written either. I think it's still good if you want to look at original Trek in the movies with Dr. McCoy. I think it's still all vibes and
Okay.
or jives together. So,
Okay. But it might
anyways.
change like what I have built. I've spent my entire lifetime with an image of this character in my head. And
no,
if it doesn't,
it's gonna make you
know-
love him more. I
Okay,
promise.
okay.
I promise.
Okay. So speaking of backstory, just I want to mention this. I don't know if you guys knew this. Andrew Robinson, who played Garrick,
Hmm.
Yeah.
wrote and then or audio
Stitch in
narrated a book, A
Time,
Stitch in
or-
Time, which I listened to
Yeah.
recently, which includes both what happened after DS9 and also his whole growing up, his
Oh,
whole
wow.
backstory.
Does
And it
it
was done really well.
does it like, because I was thinking about Garrick, because Garrick was someone I was tempted to put on the list, but at the same time I was like, no, I don't want to, because I don't want to know why. Like, I don't want to know what led to Garrick getting kicked off of Cardassia, just because it's such a cool mystery. But like, so did you find reading the book, did it take away from that at all? Does it take
not
away
at all.
from that?
I mean, I think it was done. I think it was done really well. But now, again, I didn't go into it thinking like I wasn't worried about that, I guess. So I thought it was all fine. It was all done really well. It's actually not that it wasn't like a big event that he got just kicked off. The way it happened was kind of interesting. It was interesting, but the whole thing, like from it goes back to when he was a kid and kind of like the schooling he had and the relationship he had with his parents. It was good. It's good, and you get some insight into a little bit more insight into Cardassia as well.
Yeah. Chris, how about you? Have you covered this question? So this is because now we're back. I want to ask the question again. Is there a character or characters that you would have loved to see the creators give us more background on? So we're not talking follow-up quite yet. We're just talking background of the characters.
So characters. So that means we can do multiple. Because there's like two that come to mind.
Two's a good number.
Something that you actually said when you said, I can't remember how you phrased it, but you said, oh, the treasures of us or something, of all four of us being on this podcast. And that made me think of Cybok with his, it's the only planet with the entire galaxy that contains the three of you. It's like, I would love to know more about Cybok. And I believe, like, I don't know if we'll get that with season 3 of Strange New Worlds, because season 1, they were building up to that. There was that whole episode where it's like, oh my gosh, it's Cybok. So Cybok would be cool. I was thinking about the Traveler.
I forgot about that, Chris.
Oh, at that episode?
I would love Strange New Worlds to do Cybok.
To bring
and find out, learn more about him.
Yeah.
Because he's
you don't have a brother.
one of,
I, for a fact, know you don't have a brother. That's true. Aha.
I have a half brother. I got to sit down. And then I think maybe, so this is now this is where I'm torn. I was thinking about the Traveler first, but then Gary's Heaven was mentioned. And I'm like, they both kind of have the same function. They're similar. Not
the
quite.
Traveler from Next Gen, Wesley Crusher connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'd like the Traveler. I'm going to go with that, just because I feel like he's so mysterious, and like knowing more about him, I don't think will take away from the mystery. And you can have a more of a time travel centered show, and you can see him playing with time or doing timey-wimey stuff. I think that could be fun. But I think that's it. I was thinking about Travis too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I like those answers. And mine, I've been surprised as I've thought about this the last couple of days. I always wanted to know more about Worf's wife, Kalar.
Yeah, that would.
I wish they could have given us more of her backstory. Because we're talking backstory, and she would be someone I'd say is like, it would have been nice to have more of her, but they killed her off, of course. And very dramatic. It was very dramatic and powerful and all that stuff. But I would have liked to have I just would have liked more. I wish they would have talked about her a little bit more. And all that stuff, their relationship before Starfleet and all that stuff would have been cool. So anyways, all right. Well, good answers, guys. What characters would you like to see more of in either the series or the movie? So now we can talk. They've been established. Here's the characters in the series or the films. Which would you have liked to see return, come back, see more of? And let's let Cris go first. And since he's saying it's easy this time,
you know what? I'm going to go with Travis then.
All right.
Because Travis was in every episode of Enterprise, but he got nothing. He got maybe 2 episodes of
Fortunate Son,
and then the other one.
He got pregnant in one.
No, that was Trip. Trip got pregnant.
Wait a minute,
Yeah.
Travis.
Yeah, Travis, like the helmsman.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm all turned around here. I'm with you. I'm tracking with you now.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? The engineer was in there. He was like all over the place. Okay.
He was there all the time.
Travis,
but Travis was
you.
there. And like they build up his character at the beginning where it's like they establish he's a space boomer. He grew up in space.
Mm-hmm.
He will have a different understanding of how things work in space. And you see a little bit of it. But then they just kind of forget he's there.
Yeah.
Like there's whole episodes where he doesn't have like there's even one episode I was watching. I'd love to see if I can find the clip where it's like they have Travis in the front. Okay, he's at the con.
At the helm.
And then at the helm. Sorry, that's the word. And then you see like you see Archer talking to DePaul, talking to probably Malcolm or someone, and the camera keeps shifting back and forth, and it looks like Travis like, do I have a line? And then it just goes right back to someone else, and it's just like, have this character, why not give him more to do? Like, let's learn about him. You know, let's have him grow and change. And I think his best episode, honestly, for me, is when he's playing Mirror Travis in the Evil Universe.
Yeah.
When they go for the
In
Enterprise. He's like Mirror Darkly.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so good.
Not the episode where he actually goes aboard his old freighter.
That's Fortunate Son.
Is that Fortunate Son?
Okay. Yeah.
Or where's the other one? There's like 2. Oh, maybe that is, because there's the other one where they encounter another like cargo ship and they're trying to hunt a Nausicaan or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets involved there. But
okay.
And he does have a love interest in the last 2 episodes.
With the
newswoman who ends up being a member of Section 31.
Of
What's
course.
her name? It's like something that sounds like it should be something different than what it is.
In Star Trek, if they're mysterious and you want to get involved romantically, you must think of Section 31, folks. It's just a foregone conclusion.
Absolutely.
Steve, how about you, my friend?
Okay. The one character from the moment I saw him in TOS and his variations is Zefram Cochrane. I would love to see the history of the man who created warp drive, how he survived, how he was able to assemble, build, plan, create on his own the concept of warp drive, because it is a universe in the Star Trek universe. It's a universal measure of technology. If you are a pre-warp society or a warp-capable society, it's the difference between being left alone in the universe or being included in the universe. So, and again, what is so beautiful is you find out he has feet of clay in First Contact. He's a drunk. He says, "I'm doing this for the money." Why? What was his motivation? Where did he come from? What was his upbringing? How did he survive the eugenics war? There's so much that I would love to learn about this guy. And his character morphed completely different from the way he was portrayed in TOS and the way he was portrayed in First Contact. And there's something in between that we want to learn about.
Gene Roddenberry would have rolled over in his grave if he saw how they portrayed Zefram Cochrane in First Contact, for sure. Watch Center Seat if you don't believe me.
I was going to say, would they? Because I feel like it's like such a good thing where it's like it shows like, I don't know where I'm going with it, but I feel like it's a good storyline where it's just like he's so different than what you expect, but he's still ultimately amazing.
It's his experience with the Vulcans that got him to go, I got to get my act together. There's more at stake here. than
Which
just
is
fill in
why
my pocketbook.
in the TOS episode, he's more noble.
Yeah.
Well, he's also portrayed as a military person in TOS.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a big difference. And that would be, to me, the only reason why Roddenberry would not have been happy with the change is because they lost that. And I think he had a lot of, again, given he is a vet, has a lot of reverence for,
yes,
for vets. So
good. Anything else, Steve?
No, that
okay.
He's the character. I mean,
that's a great choice.
There could be a lot more characters they can all be redeveloped or deeper into, but he's like, anyway, go ahead.
Good
Next
answer,
person.
Chris and
Next
Steve.
person.
Adina, how about you?
I'm having a really hard time with this question because you know how like you love ice cream and then you have like too much and then at some point you're like, I feel sick, So, every character that I think of,
Are you having a brain freeze right now? I'm sorry.
No. What I'm saying is like I love the character of Guinan, but if we had just like had two more at some point, maybe it was just going to be too much. I loved how they started with, they had this Chief O'Brien character and he did turn into a main character in the next series.
Yeah.
We had a lot of Q. I liked Hugh and they brought Hugh back for an episode. I liked Galron and they brought him back for a few episodes. So asking for more of anyone, I feel like maybe more would possibly be too much. The only thing is that in early on in Next Generation, now they were still finding their way. They were not giving, different characters enough of their own stuff, which is why Denise Crosby left and such. So that would be the only thing a little bit. But yeah, I just say I don't have a good answer for this. It's more that now where we left off with Picard and the possibility of Star Trek Legacy and really see more of those characters in that situation.
Okay.
That's what I want more than anything. But that's also possibly a tangible thing where we're not going back, decades to fill in things.
Interesting. I accept that answer. I accept that non-answer.
1 point.
No, I'm just kidding.
Kind of an answer.
It is a good answer. I'm kidding.
Point for Gryffindor. Go ahead.
I have one name for you guys.
Okay.
Berlinhof Rasmussen.
Okay. Yeah.
A Matter of Time, Next Generation episode.
Yep.
Somebody look up the actor's name. He's worth looking up and bringing him.
He's good.
He had a great character in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He was the next door neighbor dad.
Okay,
but I love A Matter of Time is one of my favorite episodes. That guy was so quirky and so humorous, and it was a different kind of offbeat episode for Next Gen too. As they're trying to piece together who this guy is, he doesn't quite seem quite right. But I would have loved to follow up at least one episode. Because they dragged his butt off to some sort of, he's going to have to go to court and go probably face charges. Matt Frewer, Okay. And now there is an interesting, again, I'm Mr. Old School Star Trek novels today. They did bring his character back for a fun novel, Deep Space Nine novel called The Big Game, where Quark hosts this incredible card game for people from all around the galaxy. And of course, there's intrigue and murder and stuff. And he's a part of that story. And that is also available on YouTube if you want to look that up, folks.
I need to look that up.
The Big Game. And I think that one is narrated by Renee Auberjonois too, if I'm not.
I was going to say, I hope Odo's in that.
Odo's a big part of the story.
I was telling Dill about these questions, and we one of her things that we both kind of agree on is let's get an Odo crime procedural. I'd love to see Detective Odo. But yeah, that would be cool because
done as a noir. It was a dark and stormy, done as a noir thing. It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah, maybe noir.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more cheesy, CSI Miami. You get the sunglasses because Odo has one of my favorite lines of all time when someone was like, "What was Aquino doing at the runabout at 2 a.m?" And then Odo very seriously says, "Apparently, he was getting murdered." I'm like, "Come on!"
Imagine Odo shape-shifting sunglasses on his.
He could
face
totally
all the
do
time,
it.
On and off. Walk into a building, they shape-shift off, and he's just normal. Odo.
But back to you, seriously though, I think that would be cool because you don't know. It'd be fun to see this is where you could go with the characters. You could either have him after he's stuck in the 24th century, or you
Right.
could see what led him to do that and his other time
Right.
travel
Right.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I support
So Berlinghoff, Rasmussen, Star Trek: The Next Generation. All right, guys. Those are great. You guys really, I'm so impressed. You really thought about this stuff. Steve's got it all written out in
He's
red
got
letters.
typed up
I got mine in,
notes.
Oh my gosh.
I do my replies in red so I can make sure that I
All right, we
I
gotta
know,
hurry.
man.
We gotta hurry along. This is great
Okay.
stuff, though, guys. I'm so
Yeah.
I'm so happy you took this seriously.
no this
Wow.
This is serious stuff.
All
This
right.
is like this
All
is what I
right.
dream
This is the
about
most
at night.
serious conversation I've had all week.
All right.
it's a very serious conversation. We're having a serious
And you're like
conversation.
sending
That's
stuff
right.
into outer space, Adina. Holy cow.
Yes.
We feel privileged. So second to last question. Any storylines you wish they would have followed up on? So we've done characters, and I'm gonna let Adina go first. She's given me the biggest eyebrow raise.
Oh, I am?
You did, yes.
Well, first I was thinking that this is, Steve's answer about just generally Enterprise. It's like that's where this should be this was but
Okay.
Mhm.
but what that was I'm possibly anticipating Steve's answer, from before. Any storylines that I wish they followed up on that I wish because there is so much follow up in Trek Lit,
Right.
I feel like so much has been. And of course, one of my favorites to think about are all the one-off planets that they visited in Next Generation in the episode First Contact, in the episode The Inner Light, like in the episode Who Watches the Watchers, what is happening to these cultures after? And the funny thing is, I think in Lower Decks, not that they're addressing those specific ones, but the concept of Lower Decks coming back as Second Contact, whether it's a Second Contact follow-up from TOS or TNG is kind of cool. But that's what I think about. And I might be writing one in a Star Trek Explorer magazine next year. Because I do think about it a lot, and I did pitch a story. But yeah, all those are the things that I wish they would do. I just want to know more about the culture of that planet. And one I was for a while, the episode The Defector, when the Romulan defected. And remember at the end of the episode, he left a note for his family, like, oh, maybe someday we'll be able to return this. So for a while, I was kind of obsessed with that thought. Like, did that note ever get returned? And I did find there is a short story out there in one of the short story compilations that did address Picard taking the note. And while it was well written, I wasn't entirely satisfied with the story. So I still kind of want something a little bit there. But
that's great.
Yeah,
I like that answer.
That's my answer.
Cris, how about you?
Oh, this just came to me, but like I think this would be perfect. I don't know if they've done this in Trek Lit, probably, but the parasite aliens, the conspiracy aliens that are like, oh, these people are messing up the Federation. They're going to be back, and they send out the message at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's a
good answer. Good answer.
We don't know. There's nothing.
And they went away. Done.
Yeah, then they just went away.
Did, right? Never came back to that.
Never came back. So I'd like more of those. Or not more of those, but I want like some follow-up as okay, what were they
we don't
doing?
want the Federation to just go away from these like little creatures, but
yeah. It's enough chaos that it's interesting, but not so much they can't repair.
They were assimilated by the Borg.
Right.
Their distinctiveness was added.
Yes.
How distinctive that is.
Steve, how about you, sir?
Well, I've already touched on it before, and you're right, Adina. The Romulan War, without a doubt.
Yes.
First established in TOS in A Balance of Terror. You learned about a war where you didn't see your enemy.
Yeah,
ever.
I was going to ask you about that.
And you didn't know who they were. So and that was the beauty of TOS. And you got to, 3 seasons, 78 episodes, they created a playbook that all the followers had to follow. So when they decided to do an episode like The Bounce of Terror, and they created such a evil character as the Romulans, it's like we really should have gotten the Romulan War. And there's a really excellent book called Star Trek: The First 150 Years. It's written like an encyclopedia, and they cover that. And that's what got me wanting to read the Romulan War books from the Enterprise series, because I think it's something that was so monumental in the history of Star Trek, and it's only been here or very little there or whatever. Secondly, the Klingon War. It was touched on in Discovery, but you know,
the guys at Axanar have been raising money to try to talk about that for years now.
Yeah,
they're in trouble again, I think.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of the big lawsuit going again. But anyway, I would love to see the what happened in the Klingon War, and these are vicious. This is a warrior race. You're fighting someone who's prepared to die to win. And we didn't get that either. And that's another one. So I'd love to see, even though these are war stories, but you got the Dominion War in DS9 and everything about it and all the horrors of war. You got a little in the Xindi story about what it takes to win no matter what. You'll do anything to win. So I think that's something that could really be developed.
Such good answers, you guys.
So, this is obviously this is a nerdy podcast, so we're allowed to get nerdy. But
get nerdy, my friend.
The big hang up that I think concerns that we all lose sleep over is the whole we did not have view screens at that time. But then of course Enterprise, they have a view screen because, well, by the time Enterprise came out, we had that technology. So is there did they do any sort of explanation as to how to get around that issue of them supposedly not having the view screens?
You can only see into this craft if you're allowed to. So it's very possible that, again, it was more, and even to get into the book, it was more analog that saved the war for the Federation than digital. And that gets into the whole story about how the Romulans were able to control Federation spacecraft through a device that they developed. So they were able to cloak themselves. I believe that's the whole basis of why they never saw them.
Oh, okay.
And why
perfect.
It was never
I will
seen.
not lose sleep anymore over that.
I don't want you to.
Yeah, don't lose sleep, Chris. You've got too much on your mind already with Brazil to worry about the Romulan War.
Come on, Adina. Brazil. We're going to drive our friend Chris crazy.
Don't encourage her, Steve.
I like this song. I've been reading
I'm doing the wrong
nonstop
song. I've got the wrong song in my head. I've got Tom's Diner by Suzanne Vega.
What?
Oh gosh.
That's another good one.
Okay.
Oh.
So moving right along, I'm going to share my answer.
Yeah, please.
Move along home.
I would have loved to see just one more follow-up episode. Remember the Next Gen episode, The Survivors, where they go to the planet and there's just two survivors, Kevin and Rashawn Uxbridge, botanists. And this big, huge ship keeps coming and getting bigger and more and trying. But it's actually Kevin, the alien, who is a pacifist and did not, even though he had all the power to stop these aliens from killing everybody on the planet, he couldn't kill, and that's his one rule. I thought that was so intriguing. I remember when that episode came out, and I was a wee teenager. I don't know how old I was exactly, but I remember that going, wow, this is deep stuff they're talking about. The grief this guy had, and of course at the end of the episode it's revealed he's this kind of almost all powerful glowing being who's whisks off to do whatever. I would have loved them to encounter that guy one more time. It's always been I'm telling you, from the Next Generation days, I was like, when are they going to bring that guy back? Never did. And then the other one was the Berlinghoff Rasmussen. I would have loved,
I would have liked some addressing hey, we can't judge you, but you also just wiped out an entire species because you thought of it, or because you were so angry. And Picard at the end of the episode says, we can't judge you because you're so far superior, or something like that.
Not superior.
I don't remember the exact words.
Yeah.
I watched it 2 Novembers ago.
Oh,
also 2021.
Also, I'd be remiss, and I think we would be remiss if we would say, would it not have been great to have Robin Curtis play more of Saavik in the movies?
I'm still hoping she'll show up in
watching
Lower
Center
Decks.
Seat and that explanation of all that, how that happened, like, oh, it would have been so great. They originally wanted her to be the betraying character in Star Trek 6, to betray Spock in the Federation.
No, I'm glad. I'm so glad they didn't do that
because, like,
I was very glad.
She's too nice to do that.
And I mean, I would not buy
They're
that.
Actors, folks.
Like,
it's not real life.
No, but I would say that wouldn't make sense because of how much she goes into David. She's like, "Hey, you screwed up because you're not supposed to like." Every ethical scientist has said not to use this, said not to use protomatter, and now how horrible you are for using protomatter. So I couldn't see her giving him that lecture and then being like, but it's okay to betray your captain. That's fine.
No, so I don't. So while I generally agree, I'm so glad that they created a different character. I think her ethics when it comes to science is doesn't necessarily have to be the same ethics when it comes to basically racial prejudice. You know, so those are two different concepts, and you can be on other sides. But I am thrilled that they did not do that to Saavik, because that would have just hurt too much. I'm glad they created another character, and I'm glad they built up the way they built up that character worked, because you were still felt betrayed when she betrayed you. And that, but yeah, I'm glad it was not Saavik.
Yeah. I agree with that part of it, but I would have loved to have seen more of Robin Curtis.
Saavik. Technically, she can come back.
I mean, they could have. I don't think they were thinking this way. They could have had her there with Spock somehow in the Next Generation. You know, they could have.
It's not. I feel like it's still possible she could come back in Legacy
for a long time.
But we won't. I was thinking I'd like to see more of. Even though obviously we can't, because he's like the character died in the. Unless we did it like in between Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock, but like the relationship between Saavik and Captain of the science ship Esteban or something.
Yeah,
I just thought it was interesting because she's like, you kind of get the feeling that they've been like, not that they're friends, but I just want to see that dynamic of, hey, we should do this thing, Captain. No, you can't do that thing. Like, why is he so by the book? Maybe not. I just always find that interesting.
I'm shocked at you, Cris, and I'm dismayed at you, Adina. I'm aghast. I've been reading a thesaurus today too, apparently. I cannot believe that you two did not mention that it would have been fun to figure out what happened to the whale lady from Star Trek 4. What's her name?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, Jillian Taylor. That would be interesting.
That's true.
You know, and I don't know if there's a novel. I'm not aware of a novel that brought her back, but I'm shocked.
That's true.
I go back like every few years. I go back and look it up, and just what happened with Jillian again? That she went off to a science festival, I think.
She handled being transported into the future like the best of any character.
That's what
I handle it. I would have handled
favorite rejections of all time. Like, what a great way. Well, as I say in your century, I don't even have your telephone number. Don't worry, I'll find you.
And maybe she could have gone out for future pizza and seen how that was compared to San Francisco pizza. That would have
question number 6.
Sorry,
that's still good pizza.
Wish list time. Okay, I have a feeling you guys have some very creative ideas here.
Creative ideas.
I don't. I have a very straightforward, simple idea.
Don't let me down here, guys. If you could write or encourage the powers that be to write follow-up track, what are some ideas you would pitch?
That's so easy.
Go ahead, Cris.
It is very easy.
Go ahead.
For me personally, it's just like, if I'm going to list everything I want, just do what you did with Picard, but do it for the other series. Give me a Captain Archer show, give me a Cisco show, a Janeway show, and I'll be very happy. That's it. That's all I want, Paramount.
Okay.
I know you got Legacy in the works, but if you want to call me, let's have a chat, and we'll make it work.
All right. Steve.
Remember we talked about in your Priya's question, what we discussed? I have 2 words to say. See above. Just do it what I talked about in the what storylines I'd like to see follow up on.
Khan's life.
Khan's life.
Okay.
Let's do the Romulan War. Let's do the Klingon War right. Let's see what happens. Let's see Cris. Let's hear that speech.
Yeah, but you're not going to join me in wanting a Captain Archer, like they come back and we get to see
something?
like,
I would give it. Hey, there's been talk about Scott wanting to do voiceover for Lower Decks. But so
Okay.
and remember in the prior episode, you got a Malcolm puzzle that was seen in Lower Decks episode.
I need to catch up. Jeez, like I am 4 or 5 behind. They'll do that after.
Adina.
It's really easy. I would love for the powers to be to do Star Trek Legacy.
Yeah,
as
Legacy.
An episodic series with like a semi arc. It's
like a Strange New World style.
Strange New World / late Next Generation. Yes. Yeah. Very, very simple. Now, if people want specific stories for that, I'd be happy to pitch some, but just generally just make Legacy happen.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've got 2 ideas. One of them we've kind of talked about before because the book Shadows on the Sun was so intriguing. I think it'd be cool to have a Dr. McCoy show that is medical based. Okay. That it can go through his whole journey in life and everything, and be kind of the ER, maybe without some of the shenanigans later in that series happen. But
I need shenanigans though, if it's medical drama.
But I think that would be cool. And the other one, what was it? It's gone. It slipped my mind. It was right there.
You got one good one.
It's gone.
McCoy,
yeah.
Bones.
But I'm with you, Bones, Adina. Though. I want to see.
I'm
I want to see.
We could call the show Dr. McCoy, Medicine Spaceman, and something like that. And then every episode would be, I'm a whatever the story's about, I'm a doctor, not a, and then whatever the story's about.
Maybe that's just the title of the show. The title of the show is I'm a Doctor.
Not a
excellent. Or just okay.
And then the episode names is, not a something.
Right, exactly.
This is my show, folks. Why are you taking over my show?
Because
in the world.
Because
we're building on it. This is what they do in the writers' room. They build on things.
No, if they should just call us. We should be the new pitch for Paramount, and
we could.
Here's new series, new show ideas, follow-ups, all that stuff.
As much as I'd love for that to happen, I don't know that I'd be a good person to write. I think that'd be Adina. You can. I feel like you have the skills to be able to like balance your like fan
screenwriting.
Stuff
I don't think
I don't
know if I could do screenwriting. I can plot and pitch, but actually do screenwriting. I don't know if I've got the skills for that. That's a different skill set.
I'd like to try, but not for Trek, just because I'm too attached to it. It'd be like, by the way, the Enterprise Z shows up and they had the Voyager armor, and then so that's all fan service. You don't need me.
One episode that I learned was a potential one for season 5 of Enterprise was an alien gets into Portos, and you see it from the dog's point of view.
That's cute.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about like there's another one that they pitched, where it's like Porthos becomes like a humanoid dog or something and becomes super intelligent.
That would.
I like the one that Steve said better.
Yeah. It's just from the dog's point of view, and he said that was a potential 5th season story, but we'll never see it, of course.
Interesting. Well, guys, thank you so much for your thoughts. And thank you, crew of the Big Sci-Fi, for engaging in such wonderful dreaming and supposing over our beloved and highly esteemed Star Trek. Once again, we have gone where very few have gone before, probably not, but that's okay. We had fun, and we hope you had fun listening to us talk and banter about our beautiful Star Trek. Isn't it great how truly beautiful and diverse Trek is? Tons of people all around the world love it because there truly is something for everyone to sink their minds and hearts into. I hope that this episode has inspired you to rewatch a particular series that was your least favorite, maybe. Give it another try. See if a spark is lit. I hope you find in this episode a group of people who truly care about this franchise and want to be part of keeping that flame alive and growing into the infinite beyond. I messed up that so brilliantly.
Okay.
Who knows? Thank you, Steve. You're a good friend.
Infinity and beyond.
Infinity beyond. Yeah. Who knows how long this thing will last, but it is our mission to keep this flame burning as long as possible, to stir new fandom, to stoke the embers in some, to see it come back to life, and to create a podcast space where our listeners feel at home and like they are a part of our family and circle of friends. would you do us the honor of making sure to like, share, subscribe, and write a review for us? It really helps the algorithms put us in front of more potential listeners. Also, don't forget that we have merch. Check out the link in our podcast notes to buy all sorts of fun stuff. Show your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, your classmates how much you love the podcast. Besides, who wouldn't want a t-shirt that has Chris Fox sitting in the original captain's chair looking all debonair and important, or Steve Merkin with his dog forming the I in our logo? We can't get much cooler than that, folks. Until next time, wear that big sci-fi swag with style and live each day to the fullest, being kind and compassionate to everyone you meet. In a world filled with such chaos, war, and hatred, be a light that shines bright so others can see and follow your lead. On behalf of the entire crew of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, I wish you peace and goodness until we meet again.